from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. We're headed back to Fort Reno for two events that are coming up this December on the 8th and the 15th. And I had a chance to talk to the director of Fort Reno, Wendy Ogden. I'm Brett.
And I am Harley.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Brett. I'm a little hungover from the turkey dinner. How about you?
I'm a little hungover from the turkey dinner. I didn't go as hard as I normally did. I played easy. Mainly because my son was there and he's got some new roommates, so leftovers, by natural selection. He's got wolves to feed. I'll be fine without, days and days and days of leftovers. So I got what I came for.
No leftovers?
Nah. I had a little bit of turkey, had a pumpkin pie, the usual suspects, the things that I'm into. I pretty much devoured them. It was third dinner.
I had my traditional post-Thanksgiving, my Black Friday turkey stuffing cranberry sauce sandwich.
The Thanksgiving a la king, basically.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I've had your turkey hybrid, sandwich hybrid before. It's off the chain.
So, yeah, the stuffing was ridiculous this year. Sausage, apple, cranberry stuffing.
Jeez.
It was amazing.
Man, there's a lot of flavors going on there. What type of sausage did you use? Just a regular breakfast sausage?
It was a breakfast sausage, yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing. So, yeah, that was my Thanksgiving. And I'm sorry that you didn't get to partake in the Black Friday special.
Yeah, I kind of did my own thing on Black Friday anyway, but didn't do any shopping. I'm okay with that. Did you guys get out, or anybody get out and brave the?
No, that's not a thing that
not a thing.
I believe in. That's
okay.
I'm just saying. I think it brings out the worst in people the day after people are trying to be their best. I don't like the holiday. I don't like the concept of Black Friday. I think it's completely obscene.
I will tell you this, my least favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. So
I don't like you. I will say, though, the following Saturday, the Shop Local Saturday event, I love that. I love the concept. I love the idea.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I love that the smaller communities are all about that. I think it's awesome.
In a lot of them, I've seen some of the local businesses pitch it as, you can still shop us online for Cyber Monday. Because some of these little places do have websites and shops that you can shop from. So if you get a chance to do that, most definitely want to give back. But speaking of giving back, I had a chance to talk to Wendy Ogden out at Fort Reno about a couple events coming up. We got her coming up next. All right, 6 goes into 7. One is, God, I'm so frustrated. I'm scared to death. I'm an independent contractor, and I don't want to get punched in the jimmy by the IRS.
Brett, why don't you give our buddy Justin over at the Holliday Tax Group a call? One of their specialties is tax preparation and planning. And then on top of that, if you have a run-in with the IRS, they're going to have your back.
Perfect. But how do I find them?
You can reach them at holidaytaxgroup.com. And if the independent contractor thing works out for you, they also do estate planning. So they got you back on that one as well.
Oh, thank goodness. Thanks for the advice. That's holidaytaxgroup.com. Holiday with 2 L's. Well, there's no shortage of things to do out at Fort Reno. They're always doing something that's historically accurate, historically fun, and something you cannot miss. They've got a couple events coming up this December that you don't want to miss, and here to tell us all about it is Wendy Ogden, the director of Fort Reno. Wendy, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Thanks for allowing me this opportunity.
So I've been kind of watching silently of what's going on out there at Fort Reno. You got a lot of things coming up, but you guys have gotten some blessings recently. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, of course, all summer long we kick along showing off our museum to more than 10,000 patrons from all across the world. So as we hit our winter season, that's when we really can step up our game and really focus on writing grants. And I have been working on a grant since June of this year and finally was able to hit submit just about 2 weeks ago. And within 48 hours of hitting the submit button, I had a response saying, hey, your grant has intrigued our grant people to do a site visit. It sparked some additional interest, and we want to come out and do a site visit. I made arrangements, cleared the schedule, and met him out there on the iciest day of the winter season so far. She came out, we did a walkthrough, had a nice visit, and out of the visit and out of the grant, we were awarded $6,200 out of the $10,000 that was requested. That's just the name of the game. $6,200 will allow Historic Fort Reno's museum to become mobilized. That way we can go out across the state and educate about Fort Reno's history, since it is one of the most historical landmarks in our beautiful state of Oklahoma.
We know $6,200, to some people it doesn't sound like a lot, but like my mom would say, hey, it's more money than you walked in with. So you can do a lot with that.
Absolutely. I want to be able to share some of the details of what we're going to be doing, but I'm going to save that for a later date because we got some irons in the fire, some exciting mobile exhibits. That way we don't have to tear our exhibits down when I do go lecture. It'll allow us to scale it down to make it mobile and easier for me to transport. But one of them's really big, and I cannot wait to share that. But like I said, I'm not inclined to do that yet.
So
I want to be able to cross my T's and dot my I's.
Well, and you did a great job. And I got two questions. The first one is, was this the most intimidating love letter you've ever written about something you have? I can't imagine.
You have no idea. Like I said, I started writing it in June. And when you start writing grants, you have a limited amount of words or characters to utilize. So when you have a site as historical as Fort Reno, and you are trying to squeeze a whole lot into a little bitty space, it has taken me from June until just a few weeks ago to scale it down to the 250-word description of why we needed the money, why we would benefit, and what it was going to be used for. Because the span of history is 1867 to 1952, and 250 words
doesn't
even begin. Because, no, absolutely not. And for funding, since we're on that, I just want to say that although our organization is operating on a federal installation, we do not get any state or federal funding, and people don't realize that. They think because we're on a federal installation that we are federally funded, and we are not. We raise every dime that we operate on and every dime that we do restoration on out at Fort Reno.
Well, and you were talking about, the goal is eventually to take it mobile. And people don't realize that Fort Reno itself is a hub of history, not only in Oklahoma, but obviously Western Oklahoma. Do you plan on kind of taking that message, farther east, or what's the goal? Anywhere, anybody that'll say yes, or what are you looking at there? In the lectures that I have done over the last 5 years at Fort Reno, people have sought out me from smaller events that I have attended, or where they have overheard me speaking to someone about Fort Reno, and they typically will contact me and ask for a lecture, and then we just accommodate from there. My ultimate goal, the vision I have, is to take Fort Reno's history all the way to Washington, D.C. Oh, wow.
It is that rich, that immaculate. Just because it's all done right there or happens right there in El Reno, it is so much further than our local, state, or American history. It is our world history on the once 10,000-acre military post.
Well, you know what? You think about Fort Reno, I don't think I'm in the minority here, but I think most Oklahomans, when they think Fort Reno, the only thing that really comes to mind are ghost tours. Now, and I think those are fundamentally important. They can be fun, but getting the history, the richness of the history, it takes more than a 2-hour walk with a flashlight. You really, there's so much there. And I just love what you guys and gals are out there doing in pushing that Oklahoma, that rich Oklahoma history, into the future. I just think it's so important.
It is. Fort Reno, and a lot of people do not realize, Fort Reno is the location where the 1889 land run started from.
Oh, wow.
That area, Fort Reno is where the 89 land run, on the southern border of Fort Reno, is where the citizens lined up on April 22nd, 1889, and at high noon, when the firearms and the artillery pieces fired, people traveled eastward out of that south boundary of Fort Reno. Fort Reno itself and that area of Canadian County, that area was not opened up for settlement during the 1889 land run. So during that time, when they fired the cannons and the firearms, people rushed eastward, but they did not start settling any land until Banner, Oklahoma.
Wow.
From Banner, Oklahoma eastward, yes, from Banner, Oklahoma eastward to the Jones, Spencer, and Choctaw area was where the boundaries of the east and west boundaries of the 1889 land run.
Wow.
It was not until 1892 in the same location that Fort Reno and that portion of Canadian County was actually opened up for settlement in 1892, April 19th, 1892, leaving out of Fort Reno to going westward to the Texas state line is where the settlement was during that time.
Why do you think that? Is there a significant reason why that was that by design, or just kind of happened to be?
The deals with the Native Americans.
Okay, that
At
makes
that
I mean, it makes
time,
perfect
that area
sense.
had not been. Yeah, it has not been. It was not opened up.
It was uncharted
at that
territory
time.
at that
It took a
point.
little-
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. I had no that, and again, that's something I will say about doing this show. You know, I've lived in Oklahoma. I was born in Claremore, lived in Tulsa for a hot minute, grew up in South OKC, but history's always been something that's I've always been drawn to history, but there's so many things in Oklahoma history, and that's the other part where you come in is Oklahoma history doesn't really show all the sides. There's some bloody history in there that we don't get, and there's a lot more that we don't, that's just not available to us, or at least it wasn't then.
Absolutely. You can look at the big picture of Fort Reno, and you can see it as 10,000 acres of the ugliest land in the state of Oklahoma. But you come out there, you give me 5 minutes, I lure you in, and you're like, wow, I did not know that. It's absolutely crazy.
When you get out there, and I've been out there a few times, and admittedly for a couple of ghost tours, but you get out there, and it's, aside from you're there to kind of get the heebie-jeebies, obviously, there's just this sense there of the history just seeps out of the ground and out of the buildings, and it's something in the air that kind of, you know, especially when you get out there to the cemetery, there's just something different about being there than anywhere else that I've ever been in Oklahoma, honestly. It's so rich.
Absolutely. It is. Like I said, the big picture of it, people say it's so ugly out here, but you start pulling out the smaller elements of the history there at Fort Reno, you break it down by structure, you break it down by the people that lived and roamed the fort. 2 weeks apart, you had 2 kids pass away from different causes. Mm-hmm. And one of them burned, one of them was an unknown illness, lived next door 2 weeks earlier, playing out on the lawn together, and they both ended up deceased within 2 weeks of each other. There's murders. I mean, you name it, it's there, but the history there is really where our statehood develops.
All right.
And that is why I stick to it like I do.
Well, Wendy, there's a lot of blood and guts out there, but you got let's reel it back in just a little bit. You've got a couple of fun events coming up. One is this weekend with the firing of the Christmas guns, and then we'll talk about another one coming up in the following weekend with the Wreaths Across America. So what can we expect with this Christmas guns?
December 8th, next Sunday from 2 to 4, Santa Claus will be arriving in his little horse and buggy. He will be doing free visits with kids and adults alike. We have adults, when they see our Santa, they just want to sit on his lap and they want to request their special gift too, because he's amazing. He's there. He'll be in the top level of the chapel. There'll be historical instruments being played, the piano inside the chapel. We have a peddler that's going to be playing instruments during the day. But at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 2:30, once we get everybody gathered out front of the historical 1944 chapel, there is a German folklore that will be read aloud to the patrons. And it goes through of why we fire the firearms and the follies that we do. And it's to ward off the evil spirits at Christmas time so everybody can have a merrier Christmas. And it's really a great family event for, you know, the kids get to hear a historical story. It just takes you back in time, and you'll see a plethora of historians dressed in authentic clothing with authentic firearms that will be lined up And there will be 2 artillery pieces there. So we're so excited. Everybody will be in historical clothing, and everybody will hopefully take a little bit of Oklahoma's history with them when they leave.
So will you be
following?
Well, I was going to say, will you be dressed as Belle Starr or Annie Oakley?
I actually portray one of the most famous Indian scouts in American history, his wife, Mokay, who roamed the fort. Mokay was rescued by her husband when she was age 9. They lived on the post and had 11 kids together. And my Ben Clark will be there with me. So I actually portray an Indian woman there at Fort Reno.
Okay, so sounds like tons of fun. Did you mention the chili cook-off, or is that?
Nope, that's where I was going. Oh. Following the folklore and the firing of the artillery pieces and the firearms, everybody is invited to meet us in the basement of the chapel, where our board of directors and the Friends of Fort Reno have made chili, and they do a chili cook-off. And the way that you vote, there's in no way any financial out-of-pocket things for the family. But if you choose to have chili, we just ask that you throw $1 or $2 or some money into your favorite pot of chili. And that money that we raise during the chili cook-off will go towards the restoration of Ben Clark's home.
Perfect.
There at Fort Reno.
Okay, so moving on to December the 15th. It's Wreaths Across America.
December the 15th. Yes, we are super excited to be selected again this year. This is our second year to be hand-selected by the Daughters of American Revolution and Wreaths Across America. Daughters of American Revolution, they have a ceremony for Patriot Wreath laying in the 1944 chapel on December 15th. And following the service, everybody meets in the cemetery, and there will be wreaths, handmade wreaths from Wreaths Across America Foundation that were sponsored by people all over the nation. So every soldier could be remembered at the holiday season for their service. And our soldiers date back in the post cemetery at Fort Reno to 1874. So it's quite a historical cemetery.
So back to 1874, and you said that this was an active post until the 1950s. Is that correct?
Fort Reno was actually decommissioned as a military post in 1948,
okay.
But it was not until 1952 that the military completely vacated the premises, because on 10,000 acres, there were more than 60,000 head of horses and mules that the military had to get rid of before they could vacate the premises.
Wow, because it's widely known that it was a POW camp for the German soldiers, correct? So 48 would have been the end of World War II, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Cool. You just have so many, I just can't say enough. I love Fort Reno so much. It has such a charm to it. And again, people say it's ugly. No, if you look at it from the sky, it's so majestic. I just think it's the coolest thing ever. I really do.
I would love to see it from an airplane. That would be an amazing view to see. I know what is out there on that property, and I would love to see it from the air. Maybe someday somebody will grant me that wish. But standing out there on the veranda of our museum, looking to the south where people were lined up for the land run, you just take it all in and look at it and go, wow. It's the big wow factor when you start showing people those things.
All right, so Wendy, as far as events are concerned, how early do we need to be there? Tell me what our hours of operation are.
Well, our normal business hours are 6 days a week, which is right now Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's our kind of our winter season. So 10 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. And when we hit our spring hours, I'm typically there 7 days a week until we get usually a college major on board with us.
All right. So the events. What time do we need to show up for the guns? And then what time do we need to show up for the Wreaths Across America?
Okay. The museum will be open starting at noon next Sunday. That way people can arrive early. They can visit the museum and they can kind of visit the historic district. But at 2 o'clock sharp is typically when we start the event over at the chapel, and we're usually done out and everybody is out by 4 o'clock, 4:30 at the latest. And that includes chili.
All right.
So it's something fun, quick, easy, educational, and it's a really fantastic way to kick your holiday season off with your family.
All right. So Wreaths Across America, to be respectful, how do we not show up late? What's the best time to
Okay,
get there for
Wreaths
that?
Across America. Just keep in mind, sometimes if we have pending weather,
Right.
it will be a delayed start. So the museum, I will open the museum on Sunday, December the 15th at normal time, 10 a.m. And then just, everybody show up at the fort, and usually about 2 o'clock it'll kick off over at the chapel as well. So that way everybody can get their church under their belt on Sunday and then come out and continue a nice day and really pay some respect to our soldiers, because if it wasn't for them, there's no telling where we'd be. And we definitely wouldn't be the state of Oklahoma as quick as we were.
Absolutely. All right, Wendy, one last time, where is the best place to find you? Facebook, internets?
Yep. Our website is www.fortreno.org, and you can find us on Facebook at Historic Fort Reno. If you have any questions, you can call us also, 405-262-3987, or you can shoot me an email at director@fortreno.org.
All right, sounds like we've covered all the bases. You're going to be a busy beaver over the next couple weeks. You might try to slide out there this weekend. You never know.
Yeah, I would love to see you. Also, we do have our hashtag Giving Tuesday campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It is on our Facebook page as well. So we have a goal of $1,000, and that would go towards education and restoration out there at Fort Reno. So please find us on Facebook and help us exceed our goal of $1,000 for Giving Tuesday on December the 3rd.
All right, and outside of December the 3rd, what's the best way to drop off a check?
They can mail it to us at 7107 West Cheyenne, El Reno, Oklahoma, 73036. Some people will just donate directly through Facebook. There's
Perfect.
fundraising
Yep.
links, and there's a link on our website as well for donating to our organization.
Well, Wendy Ogden, keep up the good work. You guys are killing it out there. And writing a grant and getting it approved is no small feat. You should pat yourself on the back. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to it every time.
All right, Brett. So
Yeah.
you and Wendy talked a little history.
We did talk a little history.
Yeah,
about
history?
about 18 minutes and change worth of history, and I don't think I flubbed at all.
Yeah.
I'm excited about history, though. I get into it, and I just like what they're doing out there. She wrote a grant back in June, and I asked her in the interview that must have been the hardest love letter to write to anybody, because you have like 250 characters. You got a very limited window. What are you asking for? Tell us what it's about. Here, give us your pitch. And it was a $10,000 grant. She got $6,200. I mean, that goes a long way especially in a system where they're not federally funded. They're not. It's grassroots.
I agree 100%. And we talked about the last time Wendy was on. This is a great cause, and I think our Oklahomies really need to dig deep when it comes to these type of organizations and give when they can to keep the lights on in these places.
I mean, yes, and definitely plug into your local historical markers. They're everywhere. I didn't know that this was the jump-off point from western Oklahoma for the land run. Like, I had no idea. I found that out. I mean, there are so many things that we're missing, and I don't know. I haven't asked a kid recently, have you learned anything about Oklahoma history? But I guarantee there are chapters of that book that are missing.
Oh,
and
yeah. Let's be honest, there should be multiple books involved, and it's probably just one, and kind of thin.
Well, and the problem is history within itself is not pretty. It's not, it's great that we're here. History is why we're here. But can we do a little bit of a deeper dive? The Columbus thing. I'm fine. If you want to celebrate it, fine. But let's educate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling a little bit of the truth. It doesn't always have to be drawn with a crayon. I'm just saying. Am I wrong?
I like truth in history. I like it.
If you're interested in a verbal history of the OnlyinOKShow show, there's a couple of places you can find that, right?
There are, and we're getting tons of downloads. I'm super pumped on our download numbers. I will say, though, that there is one glaring hole in the overall image of our show on the internet, and that is going to be iTunes reviews.
Yes, we're thin.
It's super thin. So I would ask, if you're listening to this show now and you like what you're hearing, please go over to iTunes, give us some stars, and let us know what you think. Let the world know what you think.
If you don't like what we're doing, tell us.
Give us 1 star and let the world know what you think.
South Dakota, It's a call to arms. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Why can't we get on the map with you guys? I don't know. It's that simple. I don't know. If we're the Only in OK show, find us everywhere. I'm Brett.
And I'm Harley, and we're out.